It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview Fredrick Cannon, an owner of two sports businesses. One is called the Ascension Sports Consulting, and the other one is Team Fredrick's team. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to start a sports business?
Well, basically, the Ascension Sports Consulting came about because of the amount of kids that were falling between the cracks on their college recruitment. And I also wanted to focus in on JUCO kids being placed as well as college transfers, since the transfer portal was becoming such a hotbed for talent for college coaches. So just to help facilitate those guys to good spots, I started my consulting business so that those guys could call me with specific schools that they would like to get feedback from. And what I do is get in touch with those coaches and let them know that these kids are interested, and basically become the middleman just to link those recruits specifically with the schools that they're interested in, so that the college coaches don't have their time wasted and the prospects don't have their time wasted as well.
Can you talk about the Ascending Sports Consultant and how a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so originally when I first started, it was really just to help high school kids that were unsigned seniors, just to try to help those kids get a little more marketability and hopefully be able to link them up with a situation where they could get a college scholarship. And then shortly after I started the company, I started getting a lot of calls from guys that were in the transfer portal or just seeking advice. So after a while, it became more than just a recruiting service. It really became like pretty much a public relations firm for athletes and now coaches. So what I'm doing now is I provide basically public relations and marketing for athletes, high school age, college, and college coaches as well, or high school coaches trying to get into college. So it's kind of basically a consulting firm to help place individuals at the desired goals, whether it's been a player or some type of staff or admin for the next level.
Can you talk about your team, Team Felton Sports, and what that's about?
Yeah, so Team Felton Sports, I met Raymond in basically 2008, 2009. He had his nephew, Jalik Felton. I believe they were fifth or sixth grade. We also had Harry Giles on that team, Michael Buckland, who played at Lipscomb University, Jalen Seegers, Jamie Newman, who's the new starting quarterback at Georgia. A lot of kids on that team that was already talented. Raymond got drafted, obviously, by the Bobcats, and wanted to have a good, stable situation here. And since then, we had one team at that point in time, and we all the way to 11th grade in North Carolina and South Carolina now, which is right at
What sports do you offer for the Team Felton?
teams to the college. We try to make sure. But right now we have girls basketball and boys basketball. We're in the development of 7-on-7 football as well, because we've had quite a few football players come through the program as well. The most recent being Desmond Evans, who's a Carolina commit, Mike Wyman, who's a wide receiver at USC. So we have quite a few football players. So those would be the three primary sports: football, girls basketball, and boys basketball.
Do you see you adding any other sports to the Team Felton in the near future?
I don't know about sports for the universities. Myself, I was a baseball player. That was my best sport growing up. But the thing about baseball is it's not, it's not a revenue-driven sport. So those situations are a little harder. We try to make sure that we can help as many kids as possible to get scholarships, and we try to do it to the point where it's cost-effective as well for the families. And so I think what we've more likely to do instead of adding more sports, we'll probably start more programs to help kids be prepared for other roles within sports. So if we have kids that want to get into coaching, be a general manager or some type of other staff position, we'll probably start some type of programs for that. That'll probably be the direction that we go in.
That's great because as somebody that wasn't into sports, I always want to be in sports but never played. But that's so great.
Right.
What are some of your future plans in both of your businesses moving in the future?
But for Ascension Sports, I think the ultimate goal for that is to be full service. So we have these kids as young as third grade, all the way through 11th grade through Team Felton. So I'm helping these kids get to the next level in college. Ascension Sports is what I'm hoping to use to help the kids once they navigate from college to the real world, whether that's as a professional athlete or just as a, hopefully a business owner or employee or whatever the case may be. I can continue to help these kids after their college careers is over, whether that's, again, playing or actually just trying to find a job in sports. I want to be able to use Ascension Sports to be able to help facilitate that next level of their life. In the meantime, like I said, hopefully I can help place as many college coaches as possible, continue to help kids get in school. I think the ultimate goal with Ascension Sports is be able to do more than just girls basketball and boys basketball. The ultimate goal for Ascension Sports is to be able to help kids with football, baseball, and some other sports once I get somebody else on staff with those expertise. That way we can kind of facilitate more kids in the community to help not just those three, football, girls basketball, and boys basketball. With Team Felton, I think the ultimate end goal is to end up having a facility that can be used more than just sports. We would like to be able to incorporate like the after school program, summer programs, that type of deal, sort of like a YMCA, Boys and Girls Club type deal where kids know they have a safe haven to come train, be around good people, that type of deal. So that's the ultimate goal, is to be able to have a facility. Personal goal of mine is eventually to turn both outfits into a school. I want to have a brick and mortar legit school, but we can actually then affect kids' academics where we can have, I want to have kindergarten through 12th grade and be able to help the kids on the academic side as well as their sports. So that's the ultimate end goal between both situations.
Can you talk about your YouTube channel for the sports business consulting and how that got started?
Yeah, so I have a podcast as well as the Ascension podcast, and usually what I do is try to profile athletes and coaches or just sports topics that are kind of current in the news at that point in time. And usually what I'll do is use the YouTube situation to just highlight what I've spoken about on the podcast. So the two go hand in hand, but they can find the podcast on pretty much all the major podcast network, Apple, any of those, Spotify, any of that type of stuff, or Anchor itself. And again, that's called the Ascension podcast.
What advice would you give upcoming sports business owners looking to start their own business in sports?
The first thing I would say is that it's hard. I think we all kind of want an immediate response or just large fan base, but I always tell guys or ladies just to focus on whatever it is that your primary goal is. If it's to educate kids, parents, whatever the case may be, just keep grinding it and do it because you love it, and then everything else will take care of itself. But just know it's a lot of competition out there in the market space. There's a lot of podcasts. There's a lot of sports experts. There's a lot. It's just a lot. But I do it for myself because it's therapeutic to me. This would have been my 20th year doing youth sports. I kind of just talk about my experiences and kind of hopefully educating parents and kids at the same time. So for me, it's kind of therapeutic. I really don't pay attention to ratings and all that good stuff, but I've noticed that the viewership has gone up a lot. So I just try to touch on topics without drowning the people out with the same topics that they hear every day. But I would just tell anybody running a sports business that it's tough, it's competitive, but you just have to keep your head down, and eventually if you stay in it long enough, you'll start seeing the rewards.
That's wonderful advice. Where can my listeners find both of your sports businesses out on social media?
Yes, so for Ascension Sports Consulting, that'll be the handle for Twitter, Facebook, as well as Instagram. And for Team Felton basketball, then my personal page will be either Fredrick Cannon or Coach Cannon on all 3 platforms.
Thank you again, Fredrick, for your interview, and best of luck in both of your sports businesses.
No problem.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Fredrick, for your interview, and best of luck.
Same to you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.